When most people picture Illinois, they see this flat, endless farmland, a sea of corn and soybeans stretching from one horizon to the other. But that's like judging a book by its cover. It's a stereotype that misses the epic story written across the state's landscape. The real geography of Illinois is a wild tale of ancient, mile-high glaciers, a river that was forced to flow backward, and a corner of the state the Ice Age practically forgot. This isn't just the Prairie State. This is a land of hidden canyons, deep geological basins, and incredible feats of engineering that changed the course of American history. So, get ready to see a hidden side of the state you thought you knew. We're uncovering 35 wild geography facts that will completely change the way you see Illinois. 35. The Almost Mountain. Let's just rip the flat band-aid right off. The highest natural point in Illinois is Charles Mound, which tops out at 1,235 feet above sea level. Okay, it's not exactly a mountain, but it's far from the pancake flat image most people have. It's a pretty significant peak in a state whose average elevation is only about 600 feet, and where this high point is located is even more surprising. 34. The land the glaciers forgot. Charles Mound is located in the extreme northwestern corner of the state, in a region known as the Driftless Area. This area, which also nudges into Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota, is called driftless because it escaped the flattening effects of the most recent Ice Age glaciers, while up to 90% of the state was being bulldozed and covered in drift, or glacial sediment. This corner was miraculously spared. 33. A glimpse of ancient Illinois. Because it wasn't flattened by the last glacial advance, the driftless area is like a geologic island in time. It's a landscape of steep hills, deeply carved river valleys, and stunning limestone bluffs that looks totally different from the rest of Illinois. It's a rugged, almost mountainous terrain that shows us what much of the state might have looked like before the ice sheets arrived and scraped it clean. 32. A surprising topography. To put the state's terrain in perspective, think about this. The difference between Illinois' highest point, Charles Mound, at 1,235 feet, and its lowest point is a respectable 956 feet. The state's low point is where the Mississippi River exits near Cairo, at just 279 feet above sea level. That's a pretty significant topographical range for a state so famous for being flat. 31st. Covered by continents of ice. The reason most of Illinois is so flat is because of ice. During the Illinoian glacial period, an incredible 85% of the state was buried under a massive ice sheet. Glaciers pushed as far south as Carbondale, which marks the southernmost point that continental glaciers ever reached in North America. Only the driftless area in the northwest and the very southern tip of the state escaped the ice. 30. Over 1,000 feet of ice. It's hard to wrap your head around the scale of these glaciers. During the Illinoian glacial period, the ice covering parts of northern Illinois was over 1,000 feet thick in places, and perhaps as thick as 2,000 feet. That immense weight and grinding power is what pulverized ancient bedrock and reshaped almost the entire landscape. 29. The ghosts of glaciers? Even in the flatlands, you can see the ghosts of glaciers if you know where to look. Across northeastern and central Illinois, there are subtle, broad, curving ridges on the landscape called moraines. These are basically piles of rock, sand, and clay that were bulldozed to the edge of the ice sheet and left behind when the glacier melted. From the ground, they can be hard to spot, but from space, they form giant arcs across the state. 28. The Sahara of the Midwest. The glaciers didn't just leave behind fine soil, they also left behind huge deposits of sand. In central Illinois, you can find the Sand Ridge State Forest, a bizarre landscape of rolling sand dunes that once earned the nickname the Sahara of the Midwest. This sand was washed out from melting glaciers and then blown by ancient winds into the dunes we see today, creating a habitat that feels more like Arizona than Illinois. 27. A sea of grass. Illinois is called the Prairie State for a very good reason. Before European settlement, an estimated 22 million acres, about 2/3 of the entire state, was covered in sprawling tallgrass prairie. French explorers, used to the dense forests of the east, were stunned by this seemingly endless sea of grass, where plants like big bluestem could grow over 8 feet tall. 26. Where did all the prairie go? Today, the Prairie State has almost no original prairie. After John Deere invented the self-scouring steel plow in Illinois in 1837, the thick, tough prairie sod could finally be broken. In a remarkably short time, the huge majority of the prairie was turned into farmland. Today, only an estimated 0.01% of the original tallgrass prairie is left in a high-quality, undisturbed state. 25. The people of the prairie. For thousands of years before settlement, Illinois was home to indigenous peoples who didn't just live on the prairie, they actively shaped it. Archaeological evidence shows that Native Americans systematically used fire to manage the landscape. These controlled burns cleared out saplings, revitalized the grasses, and created ideal grazing conditions for bison, directly linking human activity to the health and spread of the Great Prairies. 24. The lost and found herds. And yes, there were bison. Massive herds of American bison roamed the Illinois prairies. Along with other key species like elk and wolves, they were a fundamental part of the landscape. As the prairie was converted to farmland in the 19th century, these animals were hunted out of the state. But the story isn't over. While the original wild herds are gone, bison have been reintroduced in small, managed herds at places like the Nachusa Grasslands and Mediwan National Tallgrass Prairie, bringing a piece of the past back to life. 23. A land locked by rivers. Look at a map, and you'll see Illinois is practically hugged by water. Its borders are dominated by some of the most powerful rivers in North America. The mighty Mississippi River forms the entire western border. The Ohio River creates the southeastern border, and the Wabash River carves out the southern part of the eastern border with Indiana. This aquatic embrace made Illinois a natural crossroads for travel and trade from its earliest days. 22. The river that slices the state. Running right through the heart of the state is the Illinois River. It flows from the northeast near Chicago, southwest to where it meets the Mississippi. This crucial waterway bisects the state and serves as the vital link connecting the Great Lakes watershed to the massive Mississippi River system, a connection that would prove to be one of the most important in American history. 21st, the American Bottom. The floodplain of the Mississippi River from Alton South to the Kaskaskia River is a unique and historically significant region known as the American Bottom. This wide, incredibly fertile bottomland was created by millennia of river sediment deposits. It was here that the massive pre-Columbian city of Cahokia rose, and it later became the breadbasket for French colonial settlements. 20. Illinois' Great Lake. While it's a Midwestern state, Illinois is also a Great Lakes state. It has a 63-mile shoreline on Lake Michigan, one of the largest bodies of fresh water on Earth. About 2,325 square miles of Illinois' total area is water, and most of that is its slice of Lake Michigan. This connection to the Great Lakes would become the single most important factor in the rise of its largest city. 19. Chicago's personal snow machine. Having a Great Lake for a neighbor has its moments. The city of Chicago and its suburbs are prone to a phenomenon called lake effect snow. In the winter, cold air moving over the relatively warmer waters of Lake Michigan picks up moisture, forming narrow bands of clouds that can dump heavy snow on the shoreline. This gives the Chicago area its own unique and often intense winter weather. 18. Illinois at the equator. Rewind the clock a few 100 million years to the Paleozoic era, and you wouldn't recognize Illinois. The land that now grows corn and soybeans was located near the Earth's equator and was covered by a warm, shallow tropical sea. For millions of years, this sea was teeming with life. 17. A fossil hunter's paradise. Because of its tropical marine past, Illinois is a fantastic place to find certain kinds of fossils. The limestone bedrock that formed at the bottom of this ancient sea is packed with the remains of marine creatures like trilobites, brachiopods, and crinoids. The Tully monster, a bizarre soft-bodied creature found in Mazon Creek, is so unique it's the official state fossil. 16. The Great Coal Swamps. After the tropical sea receded, the landscape changed dramatically. During the Carboniferous period, vast swampy deltas covered the state. As the lush vegetation in these swamps died, it fell into the water and didn't fully decompose. Over millions of years, this plant matter was buried, compressed, and cooked into the enormous coal deposits found throughout Illinois today. 15. The Illinois Basin. Beneath much of the state lies a massive geological feature called the Illinois Basin. Think of it as a giant, shallow bowl in the Earth's crust that formed over hundreds of millions of years. As the basin slowly sank, it collected thousands of feet of sediment, the limestone from the ancient seas, the shale from muddy deltas, and the coal from the swamps. This basin is the geological container for most of the state's natural resources. All right, we're over halfway through, and if your mind is as blown as mine by the fact that Illinois used to be a tropical reef near the equator, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We get into wild geography like this every week, and you don't want to miss what we uncover next. Now, back to the wild geography of Illinois. 14. A state of 14 different landscapes. While we think of it as one big prairie, scientists have officially divided Illinois into 14 distinct natural divisions, each with its own unique combination of geology, soils, and life. These range from the bogs of the northeastern Morainal Division near Chicago to the rugged hills of the south. 13. The Shawnee Hills, a southern surprise. Tucked away at the far southern tip of the state lies the Shawnee Hills, a region of rugged, unglaciated hill country that looks more like the Appalachians than the Midwest. Defined by dramatic sandstone cliffs, deep canyons, and the most extensive forests in the state, this area is a hotspot for biodiversity. It's home to species you won't find anywhere else in Illinois, like the timber rattlesnake and tons of rare plants. 12. The Illinois Ozarks. Just west of the Shawnee Hills, you'll find the Ozark Division. This is the very easternmost extension of the famous Ozark Plateau that dominates southern Missouri and northern Arkansas. This region in Illinois features its own forested hills and even includes a sinkhole plain, an area of limestone bedrock that has been dissolved by water over eons to create countless sinkholes and caves. 11. A land of swamps and bogs. The area around Chicago, known as the Northeastern Morainal Division, is one of the most geologically recent landscapes in the state, covered by the last major glacial advance. It's a land of rolling moraines, marshes, bogs, and natural kettle lakes. This poor drainage created vast wetlands that were once a haven for wildlife. While a lot of it has been drained, this division still holds some of the state's greatest biodiversity. 10. Moving a border for a lake. Illinois' original northern border was supposed to be a straight line extending west from the southern tip of Lake Michigan. But in 1818, a clever territorial delegate named Nathaniel Pope successfully lobbied Congress to push the border about 51 miles north. His argument was that the future state needed a shoreline on Lake Michigan for shipping. This single act gave Illinois its entire lakefront, including the land that would become Chicago, and completely changed its destiny. 9. The river that flows the wrong way. This is maybe the most audacious geography fact about Illinois. In 1900, engineers completed a project to permanently reverse the flow of the Chicago River. Originally, the river sluggishly flowed into Lake Michigan, carrying the city's sewage right into its drinking water source, which caused deadly outbreaks of diseases like cholera. 8. One of the greatest engineering feats. To solve this public health nightmare, the city dug the 28-mile-long Chicago Sanitary and Ship Canal. By excavating a deep channel connecting the Chicago River to a river system that flows toward the Mississippi, they used gravity to force the water to flow backward, away from Lake Michigan. The American Society of Civil Engineers named it a Civil Engineering Monument of the Millennium. 7. The canal that built Chicago. The dream of connecting the Great Lakes to the Mississippi was an old one. The first big step was the Illinois and Michigan Canal, completed in 1848. This 96-mile-long canal, dug mostly by hand, was the original link that let boats travel from New York, through the Great Lakes, down to Chicago, and then all the way to New Orleans. This canal is what truly made Chicago the nation's central transportation hub long before the railroads took over. 6. Taming the great rivers. Beyond Chicago, the entire state is a testament to river engineering. To make the Illinois, Mississippi, and Ohio rivers navigable for huge barges, and to protect towns and farms from constant flooding, a massive system of locks, dams, and levees has been built over the last century and a half. This constant battle between human engineering and the power of the rivers is a defining part of Illinois' human geography. 5. The city-state of Chicago. You can't talk about the geography of Illinois without talking about the gravitational pull of Chicago. The city proper has a population of roughly 2.7 million people. The next largest city, Aurora, has just over 180,000. The vast majority of the state's residents live in Chicago and its suburbs, creating a massive population hub in the northeast corner. 4. From 2.7 million to just 14. For a truly wild contrast, compare Chicago to what's often cited as the smallest incorporated town in Illinois, Valley City. Located in Pike County along the Illinois River, Valley City had a population of just 14 people at the 2020 census. The state's population geography spans the whole spectrum, from a global metropolis to a town so small that everyone literally knows everyone else. 3. 102 counties. Illinois is divided into 102 counties, which is a lot for its size. This is partly a legacy of its early days, when travel was tough and people needed to be within a day's ride of their county seat. This results in a mix of huge, dense counties like Cook County around Chicago and dozens of small, sparsely populated rural counties across the rest of the state. 2. The land of corn and soy. The transformation of Illinois' landscape is one of the most complete in the nation. The fertile soils left by the glaciers have been turned into one of the most productive agricultural regions on the planet. The vast Grand Prairie and Central Plains are now the heart of the American Corn Belt, dominated by endless fields of corn and soybeans, a human-made landscape that feeds the world but is a world away from the prairie that once stood there. 1. A capital of compromise. Why is Springfield the capital and not Chicago? Geography. In the early 19th century, the state's population was centered farther south. The first capital was Kaskaskia, which was later wrecked by the shifting Mississippi River. The capital then moved to Vandalia, but as more people moved north, a more central location was needed. Springfield, located near the geographic center of the state, was chosen in 1837, thanks in large part to the political maneuvering of a young lawyer named Abraham Lincoln, as a compromise capital for the whole state. So, from a land buried under thousands of feet of ice to a tropical sea at the equator, from the rugged bluffs of the Driftless Area to the cypress swamps of the far south, and from a sea of grass to a river forced to bend to human will, it's clear Illinois is anything but just flat farmland. Its geography tells a story of immense natural power and even bigger human ambition. It's a landscape of hidden diversity and surprising extremes, hiding in plain sight. The Prairie State is a place of deep history and wild geography, proving that even the places we think we know best can hold incredible secrets. What's the most surprising geographical fact about your home state? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed this journey, be sure to check out our other deep dives into the wild geography of the world. Thanks for watching.